Today, we're going to take a look at the CardMaster Adventure Design Deck. This is an advanced D&D second edition product by Rich Borg from 1993, and it was very generously gifted to the channel by a fellow YouTuber, Copper Mutant, and I thank him so much for sending me his copy of this product, which I have been interested in for a long time, trying to get my hands on for a long time. So thank you, Copper Mutant, for sending me this wonderful product and in making this video possible. So what is this? Well, there was a lot of support early on in D&D for solo play, and we've looked at some of that on the channel already. My video on the strategic review solo dungeon rules by Gary Gygax, which I will put a link to up here, is a good place to start. Additionally, there were a lot of officially released solo adventures, which were essentially like choose your own adventures. And I haven't done videos on these, although I have many of them, and perhaps I'll do a video on them at some point. They were very involved solo adventures for early editions of D&D. In 1993, the CardMaster Adventure Design Deck was released. This is a box set of cards with rules that will enable you to play AD&D solo, either as a game using sort of modified rules from this box or following the AD&D actual rules. So we'll look at the back of the box for a moment, and I'll say in terms of this video, I am going to spend some time going through the rules that come with the box, because I think in the end, I'm probably going to make use of these rules. There are also ways of using this material with the actual rules from AD&D. Maybe I'll probably end up doing some kind of mashup actually, and designing a story using and showing how this is a great framework for a story. So what is this? Well, it says your next adventure is just a card turn away. Need to deal a dungeon, deal a castle, deal rooms with magical items, monsters, and danger lurking behind every table, box, and bookcase. If you want to do that, this is an exciting new tool for DMs and a thrilling new game for players. The DM can use the Adventure Design Deck to create dramatic settings. Players can use it to go a-questing without a DM. Even solo adventures are possible just by shuffling the cards. It tells you get these location cards, there's trap cards, there's loot cards, there's characters, and of course, monsters. And again, we can look at the original credits here, the pricing, and the disclaimer or the trademark registration for TSR. Again, 1993. Now, what else comes in the box? Well, I won't be using these. There's some card outlines here. This is like a kind of room. It's a magnification of what you'll see on the basic card. Some cutouts you could use or a DM could use to represent things in the room. And then here is a magnified card or tile. I think you could possibly use these if you were setting up minis. I'm not going to do any of that, but that also comes in the box. And the other thing that comes in the box is a sheet with some basic scenarios for some adventures. I'm going to show it to you in case this is something that you want to pick up. So it will give you some adventures for 3rd level, 4th level, as well as 5th level, and fast play adventures, a solo adventure, meaning with one character. You do get characters in the box, and we will explain what all of this means in a moment. What I've decided to do is to pick up on a couple of things. I'm going to run a party of 4, and the 4 party members I'm going to import from a couple of videos ago where I did a video kind of called Whoops, I Played a Solo RPG, and I will put the link to that up here. You don't need to watch that video to watch this one, however. It's just that the 4 characters that ended up being in that video, I'm bringing into the dungeon here. I'm also bringing in a bit of the setting that I developed in the video I did on establishing a solo RPG setting. Again, you don't need to watch that video to understand or enjoy this one, but if you want to see what I'm talking about and how the story developed, you can look at that video here. What I'm doing in this dungeon crawl is going to be bringing my party through the dungeon of the castle that I created elsewhere, and that's going to form the basis of their adventure and their story. We will get to that in the gameplay portion of this video, but what I want to do here is walk you through what some of the rules are for this game, as well as talk about the ways in which I'm going to modify them a little bit. This is the stack of location deck that you get, and each location card is going to have a picture on it with some, perhaps some things in the room, perhaps not. It will have a circle here, which is going to indicate the level of the card that it is. This green level is, you get 3rd, 4th, and 5th level dungeon cards here. And a circle with nothing in it says to you that there might be a monster in this room. And the procedure is to pull from the monster deck, which is a smaller deck. So this is the monster deck, to pull in cards to see whether there's a monster. So the first one you pull, if this color matches the green, that monster is there. If that monster isn't there, or if it isn't the same color, you don't have that monster. You pull one more monster. You pull up to 3 cards to find the monster, and whatever the 3rd card is, whether it is the matching color or not, that is the monster you would encounter. Now, in this particular case, for this card, it is colorless, so this monster actually could be on any level. When you are exiting a room, you are intentionally going to try to go where if you have a goal in your quest that you're going to find something or need to encounter something on a particular level, you would then attempt to exit out that level. So if your level card doesn't match, you then will flip to another card to see if that card matches. If that does not match, then you need to do a wandering monster check to see if this kind of thematically, they say, you're looking around for the right exit or you're making noise. So then you do a monster check and you pull in that monster. If that monster matches the color or is a blank color, no color, such as this one, that means that you have drawn a wandering monster. You then need to deal with that card, and then you go to one more location, draw. All right, I want to touch on a few other things before we get to the gameplay. The treasure deck here, I have divided up into 3 parts, and this is not per the rules. This is my adaptation. I've got the what I consider to be sort of actual treasures, item treasures, things that will impact gameplay directly. I've then sorted out this small deck of basically jewels and things that have no direct impact on the gameplay as is written. They have values. There's not a store per se in this game, so these could be used for various quests and things that are provided where you need to collect a certain amount of things, but I'm taking them out of the game, at least in a preliminary way. Maybe I will figure out how to put something in like a store. I don't know, but there's not that many of them, so I'm removing them at the moment. And then the other thing that is in the treasure deck is a small group of traps. So in the actual gameplay, not all treasure is treasure. You could pull in a trap. I'm going to create my own trap rules for searching for traps in every room with every door. And if one is encountered, I'm going to draw that from here. There are also a few traps in the monster deck, as you would expect. The other thing that is coming from the monster deck, as you can see from the back here, are the character cards. And you are instructed per different scenarios to choose or play with various character cards. One, two, or three of them, I think. I don't know if there's a scenario with four of them. There might be. And then put back into your monster deck the other characters that you would encounter either as hostile or friendly NPCs, depending on the scenario. What I'm going to do as part of my story setup is choose my party, and then there are going to be four of them, and then the remaining two characters are going to be part of my goal. They are going to go back in this deck, but part of the quest and the story, as we'll see, is to rescue the two of them. So that's how I'm going to be making use of these pretty much as intended, but with my own story overlay for that. So that's how I'm going to be making use of all the cards. The other thing I'm going to be doing differently than is the rules here is initiative. I'm not going to roll for initiative in the way that is described here, which is basically a d6 roll for each side, and that's how initiative is decided. What I'm going to do instead, these are initiative cards numbered 1 to 10. Each time there is a combat encounter, I am going to shuffle these cards and deal out the cards to my party as well as to the enemies, and then we will see how initiative is given based on who gets what number. So it could be, if luck has it, my whole party will go first, or the enemy will go first, or there will be some type of back and forth. I feel that this is a better approach for solo. It adds a little dynamism to it, and it also makes you think a little bit more about choices about how you're going to use what your character's abilities are depending on where they randomly end up in the combat. And narratively, it's reflective of, you might have to scramble, and maybe your wizard can't get immediately ready with the spell that would be doing the most damage right away. So I think it adds a little something. And then for the monster's attack, whoever has drawn on my party, whatever it is, the highest initiative card is going to be the character that gets attacked by the monster. And if there's more than one monster, it will go down. So this would be the first attack, the second attack. Again, it is just a way of putting a random but static mechanic into the game so I don't have to think about it. And so it takes away the decision making on my part about, well, I'm obviously going to have the character with the highest HP take the damage all the time or whatever. So that's going to be a little modification to how combat works. And then the final thing we're going to look at is, how do the characters actually act? What do these things mean, and how do they work? Now, the THAC0 number here, the 2-hit AC 0 number, comes from AD&D 2nd edition, and that refers to a chart that it is the die roll necessary. Well, we'll look here. The die roll necessary for a character to hit in combat. So if you are if your THAC0 level here is 19, what this means is that when you are encountering monsters depending on their AC, you are with a lower AC being a better AC, you need to roll this on a D22 hit. I appreciate the fact that this is here. I think it's really cool that you can import it into the AD&D rules. I'm probably not going to do that because I actually like the system that they've come up with for the attack. What I am going to do, however, is I am going to create stats and attributes based on AD&D 2nd edition, the Holmes edition also, for my characters, so that I can do other things with them and interact with the environment in certain ways. So what I'm going to do to make my characters run is a combination of the CardMaster, Game Master rules for combat, because I think it's kind of elegant and simple, and giving them the AD&D attributes and stats for interaction and other things in the space, like maybe jumping over something, trying to open a chest, things of that nature that may come out of the pictures and the suggestions that we get on the actual location cards. Because per the rules in this CardMaster deck, there is no interaction with those things. They're just sort of there. So, how does combat work in the actual rules here? It's pretty simple. It's pretty cool. What you do is it is based on you're rolling a different type of die based on the type of character that you have. So, a warrior to attack would be rolling a d10. And actually, for this video, I'm going to use the d10s I have that are sort of from this era, or actually slightly earlier. These are really from the 80s, just an homage to the early D&D. You roll the number of dice based on your level. So the warrior is going to be rolling, the second level warrior will be rolling 2d10s to attack. And then he will hit, in this case, on a 7, 8, 9, or 10. So the attack for this warrior, I realize these aren't very video friendly, would be, this is a 9 and a 2. So he got 1 hit based on that roll. For a warrior we have another warrior here for the 4th level warrior, which is actually one I'm going to be playing with in my game. He's going to be rolling 4d10 for his attack. And again, hitting on a 7, 8, 9, or 10. So here he rolled a 7, and that's it. Actually, he just got 1 hit, but obviously his chances of getting a hit are better. So it's a combination of the level for the number of dice you roll, and then the type of character, the class of character you are for the actual dice that you roll. So, for example, the cleric character would be rolling d8s in combat, and the rogue rolls d6s and the wizard rolls d4s. And then again, depending on there's a chart that explains to you. So a wizard, my wizard that I'm going to be playing is a 4th level wizard. He rolls 4 d4s, but he only gets a hit on the number 4 on the d4. The rogue will get a hit on a 5 or 6, and the cleric will get a hit on a 6, 7, or 8 off of the d8. So that system, I think, is very simple, and personally, I like getting a fistful of dice and rolling them. So I'm going to go with that system for this. The monsters are always rolling a d8 for their attack. So they don't there's no real variety there for that. The system works also with spells. We'll get to that if we have some magic. I will be going off the basic CardMaster rule set for assigning spells, because there's not a good variety of spells in the main rules here. So I'm going to be giving my characters some spells from the Holmes edition to let them roll for that. But you can see here on the back, there's a chart that shows what I was just explaining here. And then the spell effects table, depending on what you roll, it's going to cause that much damage. And in this case, there's also spells that will restore hit points. Okay, so it had been my plan to start to play through this story and then come in when I was pretty far into it to show you what was going on. And in fact, this is the second room, and I thought it was a good idea to show you how it's developing. Taking the cue from a listener or viewer who commented on the Engineering Castles video, that it seemed like the story that was being developed there was of some Knights Templar who are being trained to become vampire hunters. I really love that. That is what I brought in here as the story. And what I said in terms of what the quest was going to be is that 2 things needed to happen. One was that we needed on the 5th level, the red level, to find the vampire. And it was like a vampire hunter who had been trained and gone rogue. So he needed to be found and captured. And then additionally, that needed to happen after we recovered the missing lower level wizard and I think it's a wizard and a fighter that I then put into the enemy deck. So I shuffled those cards back into the enemy deck here, and part of the quest is to, when those are encountered, I guess, to fight them and sort of bring them back, and then bring back the vampire, and then the quest would be over, basically, if we can do that without being killed. Well, as luck would have it, the very first card I turned over when I started playing was, even though I had shuffled these, was the vampire. So we started out on a level, we got the vampire right away, and I was able to defeat the vampire, and it sort of threw my story off a little bit, but I was able to defeat the vampire, but in so doing, the wizard lost a lot of health. Nevertheless, I continued playing, and now we are in a room and we're about to encounter a troll. And I thought it would be just a good opportunity to show you actually how I am mixing together just various pieces of games and mechanics to enliven the combat here and to bring a little more to the table here than is just in the Deckmaster CardMaster box. So the first thing that I have done is, in the beginning of the video, I said I probably wasn't going to use these, but I am using these, even though I'm not really doing facing and positionality and anything. I did assign my characters. These are little standees from the Pathfinder card game. I think this is my cleric. I sort of tried to match this up as best I could, just for a little visual interest. So I have my cleric here, and I did write it down in case I forgot, but I've got my cleric, and this is my 4th level warrior here. So that's this guy, and then this is the rogue, and then this is the wizard here. Is that right? See, I don't even know. I have it written down. Yes, this is going to be my wizard. So that's sort of the cue that I remember. Doesn't really matter, but it just brings a little something to the table. So when I pulled the initiative cards, as I said I would do, and the initiative came out in the following way. The first to go is going to be the wizard. And what that means, unfortunately, is that when the troll attacks, I've lost his initiative card somewhere. When the troll attacks, he is going to go for the wizard, which could be problematic because the wizard started out with 9 HP, and I believe he's down now to 4 based on the first combat. In terms of the characters themselves, the enemies themselves, I am going to 2 outside references to bolster up their stats. I've made my party stats basically from the Holmes version, giving them attributes. And for the characters of the enemies, what I'm doing are 2 things. One, I'm going to OSE, and I'm finding the enemy in there if I can, and then I am going to ignore everything, except in this case, I am going to look at the save value, the save against wands, which is 11 here, because the wizard with his first initiative is going to throw a spell at the troll. And the way I'm doing this in this game is that he will be rolling his 5d4s that he gets for an attack. To cast the spell, he needs 1 success. This is my house rule. It's not an automatic. He can just cast the spell. There's a chance he could fail, but he's going to roll his 5d4s. If he gets a 4, he can cast the spell. But then the troll, using the save value here, has a chance to resist with his wand save, has a chance to resist that spell if he can. So that is one thing I'm picking up. The other thing I'm picking up here is that the troll will have regeneration. Now, in this rule set, he starts regaining 3 HP per round, 3 rounds after being damaged. That's probably, I don't think he would survive 3 rounds. If I look up I have the other reference from the other Holmes reference here, and The troll on this one, so here he regenerates 3 HP per turn. So it's not after the 3 rounds. So that is, I'm not sure which one I'm going to go with. That's always the danger of piecing things together. I think the 3 rounds, 3 HP per round makes him a little bit more of a vicious character. He does have treasure, so we will get some treasure there. And additionally, I have this little sack here, and this little sack I placed over here to remind myself that there is something on this card which can potentially be interacted with that looks like it is some sort of a chest. So once we clear the troll, assuming we can do that, we can then also investigate whatever this is after we get his treasure. So okay, I found the card and he is a initiative 2. So the troll's going to go after the wizard. The wizard's going to attempt to cast his Ray of Enfeeble, and this is a spell that is going to come from his wand. So that's why it's a wand save instead of a spell save. He is, if the troll fails, or if this is cast successfully, the troll has to save against it, or he was going to lose 4 points of strength off of his value, his HD, which is going to reduce his the damage that he can roll. So the first thing we need to do is we need to see if we can cast it successfully, which we did. We got one value, actually just one value of 4 there. So it's going to be cast, this Ray of Enfeeble. He is going to save again versus wand, so he's got to roll an 11 or higher in order to do that on a d20. So we'll see if he's able to resist that, and hopefully he is not. Ooh, great, he got a 10. So he was not able to resist that, and so what this means is he was not able to escape that Ray of Enfeeble, and he's going to be losing 4 points of strength or health. In this case, the HD refers both to the hit points that this guy has, as well as how many d8s he's rolling. So in this case, the spell says he will lose 4, so he's down to basically 2 health. So we'll use this to represent that, but he is going to be rolling. Additionally, what that also means is he'll be rolling 2 dice as an attack instead of 6, which is great. Now, unfortunately, he is going to be attacking our wizard, and as I mentioned, our wizard is down to only 4 health, so we have to hope for the best here. So the troll is going to be rolling his 2d8s, and he will be, so he's next in initiative order, attacking the wizard, because the wizard is the highest initiative of this fight. And he's going to roll his 2 8s. And again, as a reminder, he will have a success here on the monsters has a success on a 6, 7, or an 8. So he rolls a 2 and a 3. Awesome. No success. So nothing has happened here. We've got the troll and the wizard initiative done. And then next up is our cleric. And our cleric is the 3rd level cleric who's going to now come in and attack the troll. I think that she can do this with just her basic fighting. We don't need to do anything special with any of her spells. She is going to be rolling as the cleric. She's going to be rolling d8s, and she will also hit on a 6, 7, or 8. She's going to be rolling 3 of them. And remember, he's only got 2 health, so we will see what she gets, and she gets 2 hits. So that's it. That is enough to take out the troll. So that actually ended up being a pretty successful combat for us. The troll goes out, and we now see what type of treasure he was carrying. And again, I have broken down my treasure into items. So it's going to be some type of item, and it is a crystal ball. Now, it says it's usable by the wizard. It allows 4 draws from the location deck instead of 3, can be used once per turn for 5 turns. So that refers to when you're trying to get to a particular level and get the right color. Usually you only have the 3 draws, and here you can use 4. So we know we need to get to a certain level to find our 2 party members, and that's what the crystal ball is usable for. I'm not doing anything with experience here. I'm just ignoring that. And I am also ignoring the fact that this would be found on a blue level and that we are currently on a red level. It's just that's what the troll is carrying. So that was what we got for our efforts in dispatching the troll. So I've been continuing along my journey here, and I have amended what I've done. I've switched back to my original thought on this game, which was to divide up the locations by level, red, green, and blue, and pair them with the appropriate monsters that you would find there. I took the white circle monsters and also just divided those roughly evenly among the 3 stacks, and then I put into my blue stack, per the story that I was the quest that I'm doing, the 2 NPCs that I need to find on the blue level. The reason that I did this was I didn't love the continued mechanic of scrolling through the treasure deck to find the appropriate treasure, or the monster deck to find the appropriate monster, because those decks aren't really that huge, and I didn't want to see them. I didn't want to waste the characters by scrolling them through. I think this is working better. The other thing I did was I abandoned my initiative plan with distributing initiative among everyone in the combat, and it did basically what the rules say. They say, you roll a d6, and on even or odd, you or them gets initiative. I'm sticking with the cards, but I'm just pulling in for initiative of the party and then the monster, and then going back and forth, because the combat got a little bit too easy when I just had even 2 or 3 of my characters going in a row. The monster never got to respond. There was an interim period there where I gave the monster a response no matter what, like as if it was a grapple, but I think it's better to do the back and forth. I am sticking with my concept of I'm sticking with my concept of rolling a d4 for the determination of who is getting the damage for each round of combat, rather than the rules say you can distribute the damage among the party. Again, I think that's a little bit too easy. So those are some of the ongoing modifications I have made. The main question that I had is how to develop this little sort of bag of stuff here that I'm using to indicate when there's something in the room that could be interacted with. And the thing I think that's ultimately been working the best is I've gone to this 3d6 in order, which is a game obviously based on the title there, on the original D&D, and in it there is a section that divides treasure by magic hit points for what the type of treasure is. So what I have done is I have paired that with the hit points of the hit dice of the monster who's guarding it, and this is how I am rolling for additional treasure. So the interaction with the room is going to yield an additional treasure, and then these things have magic items that just add a little more variability to the play. So that's one thing I'm bringing in. Again, the question in this game now is how to add to it with the interactivity of the room. The other thing, I was looking around my shelves and I found Broken Shores. This is a game from Black Oath Entertainment. It is brutal survival in a drowned world, and I haven't done a video on it yet, but I may at some point. But in it, there is this section on, it's like a spark table on room details. It's got verbs and it's got theme 4 rooms. And I think that I have attempted this with certain rooms because the fact that it's a spark table just allows more fluidity with development of the story. I looked at some other things I have that are more specific, like dungeon dressing, but those weren't as open as I needed because there's not a ton of suggestion here. I mean, you do get the doors, and then there's this, whatever that could be, maybe a fire pit or something in here. But most of the location cards in this game are not super detailed. They're very similar in what you're getting. So I think it lends itself to the some type of a spark table. I mean, I guess that's like a table of food or something. You could, I suppose, say that's maybe a kitchen. I don't know. But I like the spark table because, again, you're dealing with a lot of, well, obviously there's a bed, but you're dealing with an open type of system. So I was happy to find a spark table that was kind of geared toward a room location. So that's how the game is progressing. I'm now still searching for my 2 NPCs to complete my quest. I know they are in the blue area, but the cards that I pull in, I will have the choice as to where to go. So I can keep, if I have this card, keep traveling toward the blue to find them. Is that like the most challenging thing in the world? No, but this is in keeping with the style and the approach and the level of this game. So that is a look at the CardMaster Adventure Design Deck by Rich Borg. And again, I thank my viewer Copper Mutant, who sponsored this video by sending me this terrific supplement to AD&D. It is something that I think I can use in a number of different ways. I was trying to stick pretty closely to what it offered, but show how you could make a little bit of a story off of that. I think the other thing that could happen is, as you were going through this, if you wanted to continue along with your characters, with your party, once they met up with, they finished the kind of dungeon crawl portion of this, you could then take these characters and that party into a different rule set to continue their story with a kind of different session, a different solo RPG session using perhaps totally different rules. So it functions that way. It functions as just a very basic dungeon crawler introductory game if you stick pretty straight to what it offers. And it also does have the potential for the stats using from AD&D itself. As I said, I did give all my characters those stats. Didn't end up using them as much as I thought I would, but you could absolutely bring those characters back into AD&D and do a full out AD&D session with them. So it's a pretty versatile product, and I don't know whether something like this was released for other editions or in what way, but I love the idea that, as I was saying at the beginning of the video, at least in the early 10 plus years of D&D, really 20, I suppose, of D&D, there was this type of explicit support for adjunctive solo play.